All right, so moving on to the final segment. I'll be sharing my thoughts on the American League Championship Series and the National League Championship Series. So, both series are wrapped up and officially done. We are now heading on to the World Series. I'll be talking about the two respective teams that will be representing the American League and the National League heading into the World Series. So in the American League, the Rangers went on to defeat the Astros in Game 7, 11-4 to advance to the World Series. So with that being said, there will be a new World Series champion crowned this year after the Rangers went on to defeat the reigning defending World Series champions in the Houston Astros, sending them home, or keeping them at home, I should say, after defeating them in Game 7. So the Rangers, I thought they had their fingerprints all over this, and I'm surprised they didn't wrap this up by Game 6. But the series was competitive. It was great between the two Texas teams battling against each other. The Rangers jumped out to a 2-0 lead in the series. The Astros are hard to put away, and the Rangers found that out the hard way, going all the way to Game 7 with them in this series. The Astros made it interesting. They have championship DNA in them. They know what it takes to be a successful team in October. They have championship DNA in them. They know what it's like to get to the World Series on several different occasions. And they went out on their limb to lose in Game 7. And now the Rangers will be advancing to the World Series. The Rangers' offense destroyed Javier on the mound in Game 7. They got hot in the first inning and never looked back. The Rangers finished this game with a total of 15 offensive hits against the Astros in Game 7. But the thing that's interesting to me is, as the Rangers move on to the World Series, there's something that I would like to address, and that is the retirement of Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker has officially retired from the MLB and no longer will be the manager for the Houston Astros. They'll be looking on to move on and find a new manager for the next upcoming next upcoming MLB season. One heck of a baseball career that Dusty Baker had, and he's contributed a lot to the game of baseball. Dusty Baker went on to win a total of 2 World Series. He went on to win Manager of the Year on 3 separate occasions. He played 19 years as an MLB player in the MLB, and then had a total of 26 years as a coach in that major league, managing teams like the Houston Astros, the Washington Nationals, the Cincinnati Reds, and the Chicago Cubs, and the San Francisco Giants. Dusty Baker was an icon to the game of baseball. He contributed to the game of baseball for a very long time, left his impact on the game 19 years playing as a player, went on to manage the game for 26 total years, and he deserves a ride off to the sunset. One heck of a player to play for 19 years, and then one heck of a manager, being a 2-time world champion and a 3-time manager of the year for doing this for several organizations. Dusty Baker is a class act, and I'll miss him being a manager, especially the time that he did a great job developing that Washington Nationals team before they eventually went on to win a World Series back in 2019. He elevated that team and brought the best out of them for years. But Dusty Baker will be missed in the world of baseball. That being said, moving on to the National League, the Arizona Diamondbacks went on to defeat the Philadelphia Phillies in Game 7 to advance to the World Series. This is actually the Arizona Diamondbacks' first World Series appearance since 2001. Trivia question / answer for anybody that didn't know this. The last time that the Diamondbacks went on to win the World Series, they defeated the World Series. They went on to defeat the New York Yankees in 2001. So it's been a very long time since they've been a part of the World Series. It's been a very long time since they won a World Series. Now they're just 4 games away from winning their first World Series since 2001. But this is interesting to me because we talked about this. Me, Rob, and Fred talked about this on the podcast last week. The Philadelphia Phillies had the Diamondbacks on the ropes. They were hot as a forest fire offensively. And the Arizona Diamondbacks found a way to get back in the fight. They found a way to cool down that red-hot offense that the Philadelphia Phillies had. They were firing on all cylinders, hitting the ball. And when it mattered most, they cooled them off, and especially in Game 6 and Game 7, the Philadelphia Phillies were nowhere to be found hitting the baseball. You look at their top hitters, Kyle Schwarber went 1 for 5 hitting. You in Game 6 and Game 7. You look at Trey Turner, somebody that just gave the bag that last MLB offseason. He goes 0 for 8 in Game 6 and Game 7 hitting. You look at Bryce Harper, former MVP of the National League, going 0 for 7 in Game 6 and Game 7 hitting. They cooled off the Philadelphia Phillies when it mattered most. And what did the Philadelphia Phillies do? They choked away their opportunity of getting back to the World Series and choked away their opportunity of righting their wrong last year, and that's winning a World Series. They did that, and they should have closed the door on this series when they jumped out to a 2-0 lead, especially winning those first 2 games in Philadelphia. Arizona Diamondbacks just found a way to keep fighting. And I will say this, I have to give the Diamondbacks their flowers because they have proved me wrong all MLB playoffs during the playoffs. They proved me wrong in the wild card against the Milwaukee Brewers. I thought the Milwaukee Brewers were good enough to close them out and advance in the wild card. They proved me wrong and swept them in the wild card. They handled business decisively against the Los Angeles Dodgers in the divisional round. Then they came back from a 2-0 lead against the Philadelphia Phillies, and they went on to win that series after being down from an 0-2 deficit, winning 4 games in a row. So, if you asked me in March and April that the World Series would be the Rangers versus the Diamondbacks, I would have called you insane. But this is the interesting thing about sports. Anything can happen. All underdog stories can come to fruition whenever necessary. And that's what we're seeing this MLB postseason run. If you guys followed the podcast, I did say the list of my 3 sleeper teams, one being the Baltimore Orioles. Everybody knows their story. They had the second best regular season record, but then went on to get swept in the divisional round by the Rangers. Then the second team, I actually had the Rangers being a sleeper team and potentially sneaking into the playoffs. Did I think they were going to make the World Series? Absolutely not. But and then my third team was the Chicago Cubs. They didn't go anywhere, and they're still clearly rebuilding. But this is the exciting thing about sports. Anything can happen. I think we're going to be in for a classic World Series between 2 underdogs, 2 teams that really, out of all the teams that were available in the American League and the National League, I didn't see this coming. So I think we're going to be set for a classical World Series between the 2 respective teams. I'm gonna go with the Rangers to win the World Series, though. They're just firing all cylinders right now. They've only lost a total of 3 postseason games. They swept the Blue Jays. They swept the Orioles. They went toe-to-toe with the Astros. And in order to be the best, you gotta beat the best. And the Astros have clearly been one of, if not the best team in baseball since 2017. Rangers right now, to me, look like they're in the driver's seat. It's their series to lose, and I think they're going to go ahead and close it out against the Arizona Diamondbacks. I say by Game 6, they go ahead and close out the Arizona Diamondbacks to win the World Series this year. But those are my thoughts on American League and National League Championship Series, and that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off, and I'll see you guys on next week's episode.